How do you identify the psychopathic parasites, 4% of the population, who are clothed in your clothing and waving your flags, but who are only in it for narcissistic benefit? I can really see this starting to happen on the right. Like, I've been tracking psychopathic behavior on the right for probably 4 years, something like that, especially on the anti-Semitic side, because that's really where it reared its head first. How do you keep the bloody psychopaths at bay? You know, and the conspiracy theorist mongers and the people who aren't trying to discover the truth, but who are using the conspiratorial edge, let's say.
The grifters.
The groypers, for that matter.
I just love the giant cloud of smoke wafting into Jordan Peterson's shot as he's talking about narcissistic parasites. And by the way, who are you talking about, Jordan? Like, who are you referring to here? I mean, you're talking about anti-Semitism. Could that have been like a big topic that came up because Joe Rogan is willing to, allow smart people who have legitimate, points to make about Israel? Those folks keep getting called anti-Semites. And recently there was one figure in particular who engaged with Douglas Murray on Joe Rogan's podcast, and that led to all this controversy. Is that who Peterson's talking about? What do you think, Waz?
My head hurt because if you know even a little bit about the right, especially in its current form and the conservative movement, and how it got started, just the idea of a liberal elite, these intellectuals on the East Coast at the universities, in their, in certain institutions like Hollywood, they're talking about Jews. Like, that is the whole freaking point of that. It's like the idea that these Jewish elite people in institutions like Hollywood and academia and all of that, they're propagandizing people to think of stuff like equality and discrimination as a problem. And Jews were always seen as aligned with stuff like the civil rights movement. That entire idea of demonizing, coastal elite thought and being like, we need to cultivate these people in the mainland of America, and these are the quote unquote real Americans. All of that stuff is a basically veiled anti-Semitism at its root. This idea that like, there's anti-Semitism in the right. I can't believe that's insane. That is absolutely crazy. Like, I was like really old when I realized that, like, if you hear a KKK guy or some like white nationalist guy talk about a New York sensibility, and like not realizing that those kind of people associate New York with Jewish people. Like, the entire right-wing project in terms of the modern conservative movement, a lot of it comes out of being like, yo, we gotta do something about these thoughts that these people spread all over the place, right? And it's pretty much anti-Semitic in its origin, dude. Like, to pretend that this is some new thing on the right is just absolutely crazy to me.
Well, what's new is that suddenly you're seeing some figures on the right stop and say, wait a minute, why are we like, first of all, we've got a ton of problems here in the United States. Why are we funding a foreign country and its military to do atrocities and slaughter innocent people? Like, why they're like starting to wake up and realize what's going on, and they're speaking out against it. And it wasn't until they were willing to do that certain public intellectuals on the right or center right started coming out of the woodwork to accuse the right wing of having a problem with anti-Semitism. All of a sudden, there's a problem with anti-Semitism, but those allegations are specifically being tied to legitimate critique of how Israel is prosecuting that war in Gaza. And look, Dave Smith, whatever he believes on any other political issue, put that aside. He's been killing it on the topic of Israel. He is on it. He knows what he's talking about. He knows his history. Okay. I mean, maybe he doesn't have a PhD and he's not the expert that Douglas Murray would like to hear from. But I would venture to say that even if you have an expert on the Middle East chiming in on what's going on and they're critical of Israel, you think Douglas Murray's gonna be cool with that guy because he's got the expertise? No, Douglas Murray doesn't like what's being said about the Israeli government, the IDF, and how they're carrying out that war, the slaughter of all those innocent people. Just don't talk about it. Don't talk about it. Douglas Murray did not at all engage in the substance of Dave Smith's arguments. Instead, he kept diverting the conversation, pivoting away to, but are you even qualified to talk about this? I don't know. Why don't we test it? Why don't you ask him some questions and refute the points he's making? But Douglas Murray can't do that. Clearly, he can't do that.
So the problem for them, like the problem for Douglas Murray and the right wingers who want to be like pro-Israel no matter what, is that they literally just did this anti-DEI affirmative action. Oh, we hate identitarian, blah, 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 blah. And in the next breath, you're going anti-Semitism is like, you just can't, like, there's hypocrisies that you can participate in, but you can't just do it 3 seconds later. Like you gotta wait at least 2 years or something. Like, give it a year. Like, you can't just do it in the next, like literally in the next. They go from anti-DEI, anti-affirmative action, anti all of this woke, anti blah, 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 to anti-Semitism is the biggest thing that's ever happened and we need to stop it at the river. It's insane. And you know what it kind of reminds me of? I don't know if you guys have ever seen Don't Be a Menace in South Central while drinking juice in the hood, but it's like this, satirical spoof movie. And there's this like sort of like super Afrocentric, guy. He's rocking a dashiki. He's got a kufi on, and he's talking about the black man and the better man and the blah blah blah. And in the next breath, he's like, "Where the white women at?" It's like that's literally what these guys are doing. They are living a freaking satire and spoof. Like that's why nobody's buying it. That's why Rogan is like, you can't be serious.
Yeah.
Like you literally asked everybody to go to bat for this anti-DEI, anti-woke, pointing out people that need special favors and there's special kind of victims that needed this special treatment. We just did this shit. Like we literally just did this. Yeah. You can't come back with this. That's impossible.
Well, they can and they will. And that's what's happening right now. So look, just to be clear with everyone, I listened to the entirety of Peterson's interview with Joe Rogan, appearance on Joe Rogan.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't just relying on clips that I saw online. I wanted to really hear, look, Jordan Peterson drives me nuts, not only because I often disagree with some of the stuff he's saying, but because he doesn't speak concisely and clearly
at all.
And so it is easy to take him out of context. And I wanted to really understand his argument. So to be fair to him, he only mentioned Dave Smith's name once, and he said he didn't like attack Dave Smith, right? Like, but throughout the entirety of the conversation, he was trying to subtly send a message to Joe Rogan about how, like, you kind of want to be careful in who you agree to have on your show, right? And so I want to give you a little taste of that. Here he is essentially implying that Rogan is being used as a useful idiot by the likes of people like Dave Smith. That's my interpretation. I want you to listen to it, judge for yourselves.
Because I've been watching these right-wing, they're not right-wing, these psychopathic types manipulate the edge of the conservative movement for their own gain.
Right.
And a lot of that's cloaked in anti-Semitic guys. There's plenty of anti-Semitism on the left too, by the way. So it's not unique to the right.
Well, but particularly now.
Yes, particularly now.
Right.
Given your radical increase in stature over the last 10 years, how do you know when your curiosity and even your skepticism about the fact that things aren't the way that people say they are, because that's certainly been demonstrated in the last 10 years. How should anyone decide what guardrails to put up? Like, what do you look for? You said to Douglas, and I know this to be true, that you're not really thinking about the outcome exactly. You're thinking about, this is an interesting person to talk to, and I'd like to go on that quest. But then you have the additional conundrum. How do you know that? How do you take great care that the people you're talking to aren't, what would you say, eliciting or feeding a subculture? Yeah, that's right. That hasn't got the proper aims.
I mean, that line of questioning, in my opinion, was meant to send a message, right? Get Joe Rogan to maybe think about the people he invites on his program. Like, that's the way it came across
It's
to me.
literally platforming discourse.
Yes.
Literally woke tactics. Oh, you shouldn't platform this idea. Oh, this person, you're platforming it. Oh, you're talking to somebody we disagree. Yeah, you're giving it a platform. Because, once it has a platform, it's gonna jump off and sprout wings and just take over the world. And don't you know that? The platform, it's lit. It's so insane. Like, we literally just did this.
I know.
You guys have literally been crying about free speech and the woke left. They're so authoritarian and we're free speech absolutists. And now look, we're having platform and discourse on the right. It's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. And by the way, I mean, look, that appearance of Dave Smith on one side and Douglas Murray on the other side of this Israel debate, it was such a great opportunity to engage in the substance of both sides of the argument. I mean, that's what makes, in my opinion, politics interesting, right? Hearing the different arguments. Like, I was looking forward to it. I mean, obviously, based on everything that I've said on this show in regard to what's happening in Gaza, I side more with Dave Smith. However, I'm just at a phase of my life right now where I want to be challenged, and I want to see people who I agree with be challenged, because I want to make sure that I actually have sharp arguments that make sense. And if there are holes in my beliefs or my arguments, I want to make sure I catch that, because we're all flawed individuals, right? And who knows, maybe Douglas Murray has a point that I haven't considered, a perspective I haven't considered, but he had nothing. He had nothing. It was embarrassing. He kept, going back to this weird credentialism point. He kept talking about how you have to be there on the ground in order to be able to talk about it, even though Douglas Murray,
which is standpoint theory, by the way.
Standpoint theory, yes.
Yes, lived experience
wild
theory, yep.
So Peterson also does this thing where he alleges that anyone who criticizes Israel is really just an anti-Semite. And the only reason why anti-Semites exist is because they're jealous. So let's watch.
Us in the real world, they wander. They have to move from place to place because people who figure out who they are, and they're held responsible. They're particularly held responsible by men. But online, they escape from that. They escape from that protective. They escape from that system of constraints, and they have free reign, and they can find other people like them very rapidly, and they can gang together. And so this is like, I can really see this starting to happen on the right. Like, I've been tracking psychopathic behavior on the right for probably 4 years, something like that, especially on the anti-Semitic side, because that's really where it reared its head first. And
why is that?
There's nothing more annoying than a successful minority.
What? Oh my God. Okay.
This is, dude, this is crazy. It's like, it's almost like nothing means anything, to be honest with you, because Jordan Peterson, wrongly, in my opinion, was one of those figures on the right who these college campus kids like literally railed against. Like, he was literally the subject of so many of this on campus, like, bruh, no, don't let him speak up here. he might like literally the points that he made up there were literally used against this guy for the on-campus sort of cancel culture. We're gonna protest a speaker like him or Ben Shapiro or any other of these lunatics over there.
They made him a millionaire. I want to be, let's just pause for a second. This is an important point. Those students built Jordan Peterson's career. Okay, their efforts to censor him, to oust him from university campuses, empowered him. They made him a star. He wouldn't be where he is today if it weren't for those students. So congratulations. Go ahead, Boz, continue.
No, and so that's what struck me about the whole, they're planting a seed with some fringe. Like, bro, this is just like it's tripping my mind out to hear that specific person making those literally woke like it's not even, you're not even making a leap. I'm not making a leap here. This is 1-to-1.
Yep.
Like this is just exactly what it is. And then, like he's like doing the thing that we do oftentimes on the left where we're venerating the minority or the perceived quote unquote marginalized person by imbuing every single one of them with all of the virtues. Like he literally just did that.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really is.
It's crazy.
It's incredible. Now, I want to end on this because I also watched Dave Smith's stream yesterday where he was weighing in on what Jordan Peterson had to say. I thought it was a good stream, and Peterson, again, didn't really name Dave Smith. He only did it once and then played this game where he's very obviously talking about Dave Smith, but isn't naming him and is making these vague statements. So here's what Dave Smith had to say about Peterson. And I love that he also weighed in on the jealousy point. So let's take a look.
Over these last 18 months, you've seen this horrific military onslaught in Gaza that is being completely funded and armed and propped up by our country. This is something that crosses both political parties, right? Joe Biden initiated the policy. Donald Trump is continuing the policy. It's not a Democrat or Republican issue. It is like a third rail that you are, I know people like to nitpick. I'm going to say you're not allowed to talk about it. I shouldn't say you're not allowed to talk about it, but let's just say there is a steep penalty to talking about it. And for many, many years before the rise of the podcast scene, he's just simply like, nobody was just going to talk about it. It was just like, you're gone. You're not allowed to do that anymore. I don't know how anyone could look at this and not think that that's at the heart of the matter here, or at least a major, major contributing factor to what's going on. And so I'm just saying, if you want to like take on people for being anti-Semitic, I don't really think you're actually even engaging in that conversation if you just say, oh, they're successful and everybody's jealous of them.
He's exactly right. And for far too long, those who have provided cover for some of the atrocities committed by Israel against the Palestinian people, they were able to get away with it because you didn't have this explosion of new media where the gatekeepers don't exist anymore. So for the first time, the Jordan Petersons and the Douglas Murrays, the ardent defenders of Israel, have to contend with the substance of the arguments made by people like Dave Smith, and they are not equipped to do that. So instead, they're basically trying to shame Joe Rogan for allowing someone as well-read and opinionated as Dave Smith to come onto his massive platform and speak the truth about this situation. And so I just find it fascinating. I mean, look, I see some parallels to some of the silencing efforts that you see on the left, right? And so they don't engage in the argument, they just try to character assassinate. And I see that happening right now with Dave Smith. And it's like, nah, Dave Smith's making good points and I haven't heard you, refute any of it. I've seen you just try to engage in character assassination. I've seen you trying to minimize who he is as a person because he doesn't have the right credentials to comment on this story or this war. And at the end of the day, honestly, Joe Rogan can do whatever he wants. And he's going to invite whoever he wants on his show. He's had all sorts of figures on his show who have said all sorts of insane things that he didn't challenge for whatever reason. Either he wasn't equipped at the moment to challenge it, or maybe he agrees. I have no idea. But it's amazing to me that out of all the various guests that Joe Rogan has had on his show, all the controversial guests he's had on his show, which he has every right to host. I don't run his platform. I didn't build that platform. He built it. But out of all those people, for the first time, you're hearing, people like Douglas Murray, Jordan Peterson, the free speech warriors, the anti-woke crowd, trying to reprimand Joe Rogan for having the audacity to have someone on who's well-read and knows what he's talking about when it comes to Israel, and who's by the way, Jewish himself. Now, Dave Smith is killing it, and he will forever have my respect, because I know it's not easy to deal with the pylons that he's dealing with right now. But none of these people have been able to engage in the substance of what he has to say. And that's not a good look for them, and they know it. Any final words on this, Waz?
100%. And I want to make a comparison, because I think I was watching Breaking Points the other day, and it was about Gavin Newsom and how squirrely and slimy that dude is. And this idea that, people were mad about Gavin Newsom's chat with Charlie Kirk because he didn't challenge him. Okay, it's not as if Dave was up there for a debate. Literally, he went up there to be challenged, and you didn't do it. That's the difference. People got mad at Gavin Newsom because he offered zero pushback. Dave went up there, was like, no, I'm here for the smoke. Like, push back on me. Push back on my empirical data. And it was like, no, you haven't been there. You don't have the lived experience.
Have you been there?
Have you been there?
Have you been there? It's amazing. It really is. Anyway,
incredible.
Keep up the good work. Keep up the good work, Dave Smith. I think a lot of people are starting to wake up to what's going on here.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.